How's it going, guys? My name is Frank and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be going through our monthly analysis for the month of January 2025. So yes, new year, same old content, I suppose, as we do our monthly analysis. Of course, it is the 2nd of January. We did say we'll do this one a little bit late because who wants to be doing YouTube on a public holiday, right? That's time to enjoy life. But here we are back doing our analysis for not only the month of January, but for basically 2025, what we expect to play out. If you guys have been following this channel, you would have seen we go through these every month. Last month, we spoke about 100K being imminent. That was absolutely correct. Spoke about in October, a breakout being imminent. That was correct. Of course, we're not always correct, but we do try to, sort of roll on these videos every month, keep you guys up to date, and, essentially make a, holistic prediction, talk about the market, everything that's to come. So if you do enjoy this sort of content, remember to hit that subscribe button, like, comment any questions you have down below. But let's just jump straight into the analysis for January. So as always, we look at our chart in our 4-year cycles. This chart is getting ever more convoluted as we add more and more things to it, but that's just, I guess, how charts go. But, we can take things off. What we were looking at last month was, essentially just a continuation of the trend. Of course, it did play out at the start, but we did have a pretty big retracement. What we were looking at was our monthly returns. What we had seen prior, we spoke about this in September, in our September monthly analysis video. If you want to go back and watch this, or maybe, oh no, we would have spoken about it, sorry, in our October monthly analysis, because what we spoke about was when we see a green September, we typically see the rest of the year play out green. And by typically, we actually meant 100% of the time, because we'd only ever seen 3 green Septembers, and all 3 of those every single month for the rest of the year played out green. So, we spoke about that here. We got 2 months and we got a slightly red month. So not the end of the world. We did sort of talk about the fact that, these sort of indicators, they're not going to play out 100% of the time, right? But, pretty close, quite accurate. But now we need to sort of look forward now. We've had our 4 months. We didn't see every month green, but we saw quite close. So what do we expect to see coming, I guess, after this now? It has thrown a bit of a curveball in the mix. On the macro side of things, everything is still perfectly A-OK. You can see our swings for this current cycle are all intact, higher lows, higher highs. What we've got drawn out here is just our monthly swing top and monthly swing low. They are the essential support and resistance. Ideally, we do not close below 73,000. If we come into it, wick out, something along the lines of, this, that's fine. But if we close below, that is cause for concern. And we really don't want to be coming back to this swing low at 49,000. Whilst technically it would be okay if you're just looking at things purely in terms of a swing chart, but that would be early indication that things are going bad. But on the larger time frames, grand scheme of things, everything is okay. I've seen some people post this candle as quite bearish. Yes, it's a potential, you see these in the past, this sort of candle does look quite bearish, but in saying that, you do also see, there's one there, it wasn't the top, right? I guess, there's lots of different examples of times where it wasn't the top either. So, you just got to pick and choose and ultimately take a look at where we are in the cycle. As we've said, we expect about a year up from the breakout. We've just had our breakout. We've just had December and now we're in January, the fresh new year. So what we want to start looking at is just our selling points, which we actually went through quite comprehensively last month. And we did also put up 5 key sell indicators. So go watch that video if you want to sort of know a bit more comprehensively what my sell indicators are. I won't go through them again on this video because I've just gone through them. But what we want to look at is where the potential next pullback is, because we do expect a pullback at some point in this 11 months up. Maybe this is the pullback. Maybe it's the start of the pullback. It's hard to really say, but just based purely on history, what we have seen, we did speak about this last month, but you typically sort of see, four or so months, 4 to 5 to 6 months up. Here's 7 months, from the breakout to the eventual, top. You can sort of mark that as 6 or 7. It doesn't really matter. And same with last cycle, right? We break out, we have 4 months up, and then we top out. So should we see something similar? We're sort of looking at, 4 to 7 months. It's going to be around that March, April, May sort of period. April has historically been You know, a bit of a top area for Bitcoin. You can see this one here was in April, and this one back here was in April. So should we see another top in April, that would take us out to about that 5-month range, which wouldn't be surprising. But, you know, you can sort of see, like, you know, a red candle here is sort of a little bit of a curveball. But, you know, as we say, these cycles, they don't play out the same every time. They just sort of, they play out similar. But they, you know, they're not going to be 100% accurate. We've seen, you know, very different things this cycle. We saw an all-time high way ahead of schedule, but then we got a pullback that put us back on schedule. So maybe we get, you know, a pullback earlier, but then a pump up later as well that just puts us back on track, right? It's entirely possible. We fully expect that. So if we look into our monthly returns, what we could expect for 2025, if we look at, you know, there's different ways you can look at it. You can look at it in terms of prior halving years or post-halving years. So obviously 2024 was a halving year. The 2025 is a post-halving year. So 2021 was also the post-halving year for this one. You can see 2020, May 2020, we had a halving. That's what that black line represents. So 2021 was a post-halving year. And you can see that it was, you know, a pretty good start to the year. You know, 3 consecutive green months. As we said, April was the top, and then we had quite a significant pullback before running up again sort of later in the year. And then obviously the only other one is 2017. So 2017 was a slow start, but then a really good run up into the middle and later, late end of the year, albeit, you know, September, you know, pretty well an entirely green, you know, second, third, fourth quarter of the year, which is pretty good. I guess the other way you could look at it, the other way that I was going to be looking at it a bit more thoroughly was when we have really good run-ins to the end of the year. So, you know, you can look at all these years here, very good finishes to the year. So obviously just last year, 2013, or 2 years ago now, actually, it was a really good finish to the year that actually rolled on quite well to the next year. You know, 2020 was a good finish to the year that rolled on very well to the next year. 2018 was a very good year that rolled on not very well to the next year. And, you know, you can see, like, you know, it's just very varying results is what I'm finding. You know, we're a bit all over the shop. You know, post-halving years, you had one year that was a slow start, good middle, another year that was a great start, slow middle. So, you know, it's essentially a 50-50, right? There's no real historical data to suggest whether, you know, the start of the year is going to be good, the end of the year is going to be good. I don't think it really matters too much. It's going to be however it plays out. But what we do expect is that, you know, we're in the green half of the cycle. There's a lot of other cycles that are, you know, teeing up that we've spoken about in the past, like the 18.6 year cycle coming to an end. So real estate's going very well. You know, your stocks are going well. Your cryptos are probably going to be going well. So as we've been saying, this is sort of the hard part of the cycle because everything is up. Everything looks really good at this point in time. We have no reason to believe it's not over yet. But in saying that, you know, how do we also know that this isn't the top? You tell me, right? You know, but there's going to be signs, there's going to be early indications like coming back and retesting some macro trends. But we, you know, we really just got to wait and see at this point in time. There's nothing, you know, historical charts, you know, as we just said, you know, nothing really, you know, too comparable in that other than post-halving years go up. So when they go up is, you know, you tell me sort of thing, but we just got to wait and play this one out by day and just see how we go. We do still expect further upside returns. We'll talk about sell targets and everything probably next month because at the moment we are just in a bit of a limbo stage and, you know, we really just got to see where these next few candles on the monthly chart print and then we'll have a far better idea of what's to come. And this is sort of represented in the daily chart, right? Like you can see, you know, the daily chart is not overly bullish at the moment. You know, lower highs, lower high, lower high. We are just in sort of a wedge right now. If this support breaks down, you know, do expect to come down to the 50% level, which is currently at about 79,000. But, you know, we're just going to really wait and see. We could also, on the flip side, just break out and continue on the cycle, you know, as expected. And then maybe top out later in April, like we're talking about. You know, it's really hard to say at this point in time because we're just in a bit of a limbo stage. The data's a little bit, you know, not too clear other than, you know, the cycle suggests we continue going up. In what manner? You know, you tell me sort of thing. I'm not really too phased how we go up. If the price keeps going up, we're all good. We'll take profits later and that's a-okay. You know, we're not really phased about this short-term churn. Yes, you know, the monthly close wasn't great and, you know, it's hard to really say what's going to happen, but macro is still up. Short term, bit iffy, but we'll wait and see. Yeah, time will tell. Now, Bitcoin dominance on the monthly chart is quite interesting. We've been talking about this for a little while now. We weren't as bullish as some others. We didn't expect, we sort of said our top out range was about 57, 58%, which you can see we just got above, and we ended up actually, getting to a high, getting to a high of about 61.5%, which, is what it is. You just got to, live and learn. But the point is now is that, are we seeing a topping pattern? I think we've got to be getting close, right? Like, sooner rather than later would be my expectation. An interesting thing on this RSI here, you can see, like if we do just zoom it in, is that we've got this sort of recurring trend line. Whether this plays out the exact same or not, but we would possibly expect some sort of pullback. You can see every time we've come up near it, this trend line's not very accurate. I don't know. Draw it from wherever. The exact prices don't matter, but it's more just about the trend. You can sort of see since we've come up and hit it, we have been pretty hard rejected, come back down quite a bit. So we'll see if this does eventuate to being the top. But, the RSI would suggest, Bitcoin is essentially overbought, at least compared to your altcoins. And then on the daily chart as well, this is quite bearish, to, clear lower highs. Big volume on the sell candles. If I can find it, like this one here, big selling volume. When it came back out, it looks like it's been rejected pretty hard. So, we did pick out some lower highs earlier in the cycle, which didn't actually end up playing out. But I think just based on, this sort of current structure, where we've, you've sort of got all these accumulation zones, big accumulation here, I guess topping patterns all along here. For Bitcoin to sort of just wipe them out, just, get rejected and be back in those accumulation zones, does suggest bearishness, in my opinion. It suggests that, the market doesn't necessarily see as much value in Bitcoin as it does its altcoins currently. So we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I think, this chart doesn't look great. Coming back into that accumulation zone, it's, in my opinion, is bearish. This sort of, rejection is quite bearish. These tops quite bearish. And if you look at it, if I can find on the monthly chart, maybe this is, some brilliant technical analysis by me, because I haven't seen anyone else point this out. But, you can see like the RSI coming back to that trend line and suggesting that it has been overbought. We'll wait and see. But only, really only time will tell. I guess the other thing you could look at, just on a bit of an alternative note, is that this is pretty bullish divergence on the Bitcoin. What am I trying to say? On the Bitcoin dominance, there is bullish divergence. So, maybe long term we do see Bitcoin dominance continue higher. Especially after this cycle, maybe it does, head back up quite high. We'll have to wait and see. If we, come back, retest something like that. I'm not saying that's going to happen. This is spitballing. I shouldn't really be talking about this right now, but Bitcoin dominance, in my opinion, just to wrap this up, is a bit bearish short term and possibly longer term as well. Sorry, not longer term, like medium term as in, this cycle, but I think long term, I think we'll see Bitcoin dominance head up a bit higher. We'll wait and see. But for this cycle, I think we may have topped out on Bitcoin dominance. Now, as for Ethereum, sort of what we've been talking about, like, for a long time now. 4,000, huge resistance. Once we can break out of that, I think we are off to the races. I think that's, once Ethereum breaks out of this $4,000 resistance, I think that will represent the beginning of the altcoin season, because that is just, you can see we've hit it already 3 times just this cycle. The good news is that, short term, held the 50% very well, just maintaining that pretty well, closing right on it, staying above. We are seeing, higher candles be printed. But, sort of the same thing, right? Until something breaks, there's nothing really to say that this is over. We would still expect 4K to be broken at some point in time. So we'll wait and see. Once 4K is broken, we'll get on the altcoin season bandwagon. Now, something kind of half interesting, RSI, same thing again. what we've seen is another trend line on the RSI. I don't know why the trend lines on the RSI are so popular for me right now, at least, but I just keep putting these on and they keep seeming to play out quite well. But what you can see is pretty clear, definitive trend line, but it's actually sort of an early indicator. So first time we hit it back in 2017, you can see hit it, big retracement, but then the final push up. Same thing again, we hit it, sort of back here in this region. Doesn't look like a significant drawback, but I'm sure if you put it, but if you put a price range top to bottom, that's about 35-40%. So it is price wise a significant correction, but then after that obviously did not reach nearly the highs. Again, the eventual peak was nowhere near the trend line, which is kind of interesting. And then same thing again here, we've actually just hit it once, or gotten very close to it, and it looks like maybe we do gear up and not hit it a second time. That is entirely possible that we sort of put in that lower high, and that's that for that cycle. So we'll have to wait and see. Maybe this is the second top and it's all over for Ethereum, but obviously same thing as Bitcoin, right? As long as nothing is broken, to the downside, there's no real reason to suggest that this is the end of the cycle. We still expect to break 4,000 and start the altcoin season, but we just have to wait and see at this point in time. Now on to CRO. We did sort of point this out as a potential start of a correction. Shouldn't bring that up yet, but what we were talking about is basically interesting spot for CRO. 3 days down is concerning from the high, but the good news is that the 50% has held up. I'd say we spend a bit longer under 20 cents. How long depends whether the 50% or not, or 50% is held or not. Now since then, I wouldn't say this has gotten any better. We had that 3 days down. We looked like we could have rallied up a bit higher. Clear rejection, lower high. Things have basically fallen off a cliff. And as you can see now, it looks like we might be finding some rejection on the underside of the 50%, which is obviously not very good. So what does that mean for CRO? Well, you only have to look at history, and that suggests that 60% corrections are quite common for CRO. So obviously right now we are down, from high to low about 41%. We do often see 60% plus. If we go back and look at the last cycle, we'll start to see some correlation here, but we'll get to it. You can see 74%, 71%, 67%, just this second cycle. We have seen, smaller drop-offs. You can sort of see like each pullback, they get smaller, which I guess is a good thing, right? You don't want them getting bigger. But you can see, this one was 40%, this one was 63%. Maybe we get another 40%. That would be nice, but 60% is quite normal for CRO. So I think you're just better off sort of mentally preparing for that. The good news is that everything is still up on the macro, higher highs, higher lows. And interestingly, I've been looking at this and sort of wondering what next for CRO. What we can see on the daily chart is, in my opinion, bar the start of the coin, you sort of had that big pullback, and then you have so these swings are the monthly swings. So we're just on the daily chart, but we'll look at the monthly swings. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 push-ups. So I'll say that again: 1, 2, 3, 4 push-ups. Each one of those tops is met with a pretty big correction. The first 3 obviously being around that 60%. And where is CRO right now? Well, in terms of monthly swings, we've had 1, 2, 3, right? So 3 pretty significant push-ups. Will we see this play out quite similar? And you can see that the fourth one was a clear breakout and, massive gains. When you put it on log, you can't see it quite as well. But, you can see like, when you take it off log, it is quite a massive push-up. What we are finding is resistance on the bottom of this trend line. So this was essentially a trading wedge that we were looking at. This isn't drawn very well, but that's okay. It doesn't really matter. But a trading wedge for CRO here. I might have moved that by accident at some point in time. But we're top, eventual breakout, way overbought, and corrects. And now we're seeing resistance, and support. Some turbulence there, but now we're seeing it sort of act as resistance. So maybe if we can jump back into this wedge, we can push up a bit higher, but hard to really say at this point in time. If things play out the exact same, the fourth push-up will be the biggest. That is sort of what we're hoping for at this point in time. Until something changes drastically, there's no reason to believe any different. And then if you look at the RSI as well, just something else to point out, you can see this is also reflected in the RSI, that we do have those 1, 2, 3, 4 big push-ups sort of into the overbought of the RSI. We have had 1, 2, is this the third one now? Sorry, yes, it is the third one, but do we get a fourth push-up, possibly closer to our sell target time frame? Quite possibly. And the other thing to consider is that this fourth push-up was by far the longest. And if we just quickly look at timeframes in terms of how long these moves last, we're talking about the fourth one being the longest, like the fourth push-up, the big final push-up being the longest of all. This is of course, just remember, only if things play out very similarly to last cycle. That's the only really the real data that we have to look at for CRO. So if we're just assuming that things are going to be somewhat similar, perhaps this fourth push-up will be the longest. This is just very roughly, from high to lower. That's not quite, ignore the exact dates. They're probably not 100% accurate, but it's more just getting a rough idea. I think I've put these on, pretty close. But the point is that, you can see 9, 23, 12, and then 24. So definitely the longest. It actually should go a little bit further. 26 bars is the top, or 25 bars is the top there. It depends really where you draw it from. I keep moving this because I'm like, do I go from the very low, or I'll just go from this one? Look, it doesn't really matter. The point is 9, 23, 12, 27. So that's definitely the longest. This one, 9, 6, 14. Do we see a longer one again? This one was, almost double the others, at least the shorter of the two. So we'll wait and see. If this is the longest, we expect at least 14 bars from the low. It probably gets us pretty close, sort of to our sell time targets that we're talking about with the 4-year cycle. So we'll wait and see. Obviously, these are all highly speculative, especially what we're talking about right now. That's, of course, if things play out the exact same as they did last time, which they absolutely won't play out the exact same, but they could play out quite similar. So there's some possible forecast. Take what you will with that. Unless CRO breaks, as we've sort of spoken about in the past, unless it breaks monthly swing lows, we have nothing really to worry about. It wouldn't be surprising if we get a 60% pullback before we look at going up again like we have done in the past. And now finally for Sol, last month we were pretty well saying that Sol is likely not a buy anymore. If we have a look back at December 1st, it's this sort of small candle just here. We were pretty well correct. The reason we really said that was, one, it looked like it could have been topping out. And two is that, we're pretty well at all-time highs for Solana. So, this isn't, end of the world type stuff. It's not good that we're back in this trading range. Ideally, as we sort of spoke about with Bitcoin, ideally, if I can find what I'm looking for, we don't re-enter these sort of trading ranges. We hold above. If Sol was still, super duper 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 bullish, like it has been all cycle, we would have pushed up and then we would have held that, not re-entered that, accumulation zone. But, we have. Hopefully it's not the end of the world. Hopefully we just jump back out. If that's what happens, that's not the end of the world either. But the longer we spend in this, sort of prior trading range, it suggests people aren't as bullish on Solana as they were prior, or at least not at this price point, right? That's pretty well what we're saying. So we'll wait and see for Sol. Sol's still not a buy. For me, for the rest of the cycle, I won't be buying any more Solana, but it's also not necessarily a sell at this point in time. Nothing major is broken down. You look at it on the monthly chart. If we pull this up, it's not. Oh, try and keep that on, Jan. There we go. That's as we said, our 4-year cycle sell target time wise. But it's not really too bad. On the monthly, I guess you could say that we are above these sort of levels. So I guess on the monthly chart it probably doesn't look too bad. But we'll wait and see. Once something breaks down, we'll probably look at selling some Solana, but not a buy, not a sell. Let's just wait and see. We'll try and sell for higher prices if we are still believers in the 4-year cycle. That's the big thing, right? If we're still believing in this 4-year cycle, as we have done, I guess this entire cycle, would suggest that there is possibly more upside. So we'll wait and hold it out. If things change, we got to shift our strategy. But for now, nothing major has happened. So that is everything for this video, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. A bit of a tough spot. It's always a lot harder when you are in price exploration. We've got to start to look to sell later in this cycle. So if you're interested in my sell indicators, go back and check out some of our prior videos. We do go through them a bit more thoroughly. But for now, let's, wait and see what happens. As we said, it could take a few months until we really get a better idea of what is to come, for the rest of 2025, because, nothing's too clear right now. It's no support and resistance. Prior data shows us quite different stories. So let's wait and see. Thank you all so much for watching. If you do enjoy, hit that subscribe button. Use my referral codes, everything down in the description. Like the video. Comment any questions you have down below. But that is all for now, and I'll catch you in the next one.